Hey everyone, welcome back to The Current. This is another episode of Real Talk on Real Topics. My name is Bo. I'm joined with Curtis, as always. Exciting new series starting today. We decided it'd be fun to maybe talk about some books that have been really influential to us and just make, essentially for you, a summer reading list. If you're into reading, want to read some books this summer, we feel like these would be some great ones to read.
Yeah, we've curated a really good list for you, and we'll be dropping, one a month, give you something to read throughout the summer, and hopefully give you something that will be, impactful and challenging, and just some, really good reads.
Yeah, and as we were kind of discussing some of the books, excuse me while I take a drink here, but as we were discussing some of the books, we thought maybe it'd be good for us to talk about some books that really were influential to us.
Yeah.
Some that really just kind of stood out and helped us or encouraged us. And
Right. Yeah, made some sort of a personal impact. And I'm really excited because this first book that we're going to be looking at this week is one that definitely did that for me. I remember reading through this book, and it was one of those books that, like, you read and then it sticks with you for a little while afterwards. You have some books that you read, you close, you're like, oh, that was good. This was one of those that kind of, lingered around for a few weeks after, and I still found myself chewing on it and considering its implications and trying to, find myself living a little differently because of it.
yeah, it's been years since I read this book. I mean, a long time ago. I think I first read it, I want to say it was shortly after I moved to Mason City. So
Okay.
would have been like probably 2011, but it was just a game changer.
Yeah.
So good.
Well, I know it was through you that I was introduced to this book. I guess to let the people know, the first book we're going to be talking about is a book called Fresh Wind, Fresh Fire by a gentleman named Jim Cymbala.
Yeah, and if you're watching via video, this is what it looks like. Here it is.
Yeah. As you can see, it's not a huge book. And one of the things we want to do for this series is to give some books that really are accessible. You know this about me, Bo. I'm a big nerd. I love big books. If it's got footnotes and glossaries, count me in. But that's not what we're going to be trying to recommend to you. Yeah. You're not going to have to read these crazy thick dissertations. We want to give you stuff that's challenging, but still, palatable.
Yeah. And the thing about this particular book, Fresh Wind, Fresh Fire, is it's got some really good, just like, I think, practical things for your faith. And like, he really does challenge you to, I think, tap into the Spirit of God, which is kind of the gist of the book. But more than that, you also get to hear some like real life stories, some real stories, cool stories about Jim Cymbala, his church, the Brooklyn Tabernacle, and kind of the transformation that they went through. And so, let's just jump in and we'll start there. And kind of give a summary. That's essentially what happens. He takes you on this journey. He's a pastor of the Brooklyn Tabernacle, and they're down to, I think, 20 people. They're just struggling to make it. And he's worried about paying bills, obviously, like being a pastor, I really resonated with that. Like there's always those times, in the life cycles of churches where it's like, how are we going to make it? And what's going to come next? And I remember him, like being in his office, just like looking at stuff like, man, this is due and how are we going to pay rent? And, And so he gets to the point to where really to do what he only knows to do, and that's to pray. And so they start having a prayer service, and some wild things start happening. I don't know how much I should divulge.
Right. We want to save some of the goods for you to discover, but I think, the best way to summarize this book is to say you're getting partially a book that's trying to argue for something, but also you're getting, like Bo said, just some biography. You're getting to hear some of this guy's story. And it is about a pastor who is really just advocating for Christians to say, hey, we need to be a people who seek God, who pray, who want to get in on where God is moving, to not just be the Christians who are like, oh, I read my Bible and I did whatever, but to say, no, if this is really true, if there is a God that's there and is interacting with his people, one of the most important things we can be doing is to pray to him, to seek him, and to see what crazy things might come from doing that. And so you really get Jim taking you through this story, just showing the different ways in which God showed up when his people really sought him and when they prayed.
Yeah. And there's I'll let you share one story from the book, kind of. I'll kind of share one story from the book. We won't go into detail here again because you really should read it. But one of my favorite things is, again, they're starting to have this prayer meeting. The prayer meeting starts to grow. I mean, more and more people start showing up. Like, the Spirit of God is there. It's present. It's like palatable. You can feel it. But I think one of my favorite things that happens is they start to like really start praying for like the needs of their community. And they're in one of the, I should mention this, like they're in one of the really the most dangerous communities at the time, you know, so it wasn't like they were, you know, in a suburb all nice and neat. Like they're in the heart of just kind of some desperate needs and some people that really need, you know, love and hope. And so anyway, but they start praying for the needs of like their community around them. And then, you know, all of a sudden like a person off the street just wanders in right in the middle of the prayer meeting, you know, and it's like this amazing encounter that they have with this individual. It's just powerful. Like, it's just like stuff like that is just really powerful where God is moving. And then I know there's another story that kind of stood out to you with his daughter.
Oh, yeah, definitely. This is, I mean, it's hard to pick because there are just a handful of really great examples. But there's one where the pastor Jim is talking about just some of the troubles of the relationship he had with his daughter. They were kind of removed from one another. They didn't have really much of a relationship. The daughter was kind of making some life decisions that weren't entirely great. And anyway, again, just kind of having a huge emphasis on prayer and making sure that's a big part of their church's life. Again, they were at this big prayer service, and he was going to be planning to have the service be praying for something else, but one of the people of the church, someone that he trusted to kind of be spiritually sensitive and stuff, but came up and said, hey, I think we need to pray for your daughter. She had no idea kind of the backstory of what exactly was going on, and he says in the book, he kind of wrestles, should I do this? Should I go? But, you know, maybe this is the direction God's going or whatnot. So they end up, he divulges a little bit, and they begin to have this all-night prayer services. They're praying for the daughter. Anyway, I think it's like the next night or less than 24 or 48 hours later. The dad's upstairs, shaving, getting ready for bed. All of a sudden, boom, door opens up, and it's the daughter, and it's the mom, and she's like in tears, like, what's going on? And she goes, where's Dad? I need to talk to him. Where's Dad? I need to talk to him. And he said, I didn't even finish shaving. I came running down, and she just fell down, right? And she says, Dad, I'm so sorry. Who was praying for me? Who at the church has been praying for me? And he's like, what? And she says, I had a dream last night. And she goes on to describe in detail some of this dream that happened. Anyway, really interesting stuff. But it was the catalyst and sparked for a big moment of reconciliation and a big change in this woman's life. What I would say, and we could argue, but partially due to the persistent prayer of God's people. So I think those are just a couple of really great illustrations for what the book is about. I mean, the title is Fresh Wind, Fresh Fire, and it is about saying, hey, we need the Spirit. We need to be engaging with God. We need to be praying, right? We need that fresh wind, that fresh fire of the Spirit kind of moving and directing us. I'd love to know, just kind of take a turn and say, where do you think this book can like fit into the life of the church or Christians? What is it that you would hope maybe after reading through this, they would be encouraged or challenged to do, or maybe be a little different with?
Yeah, I think, you know, like there's really some practical things also in here about just like, I don't know, even for me, and like speaking of our church here, like even like church growth, like there's this whole chapter on like the lure of marketing and how do you get people to come to church on Sunday? Well, like that's the wrong question. Like God didn't call me to like figure out how to get people to come to church on Sunday. He called me to preach the gospel and like, you know, like so anyway, it's like there's an intentional focus on like, you know, church being this place where the Spirit of God is what's drawing people in. Like the God moving and changing people's lives is the attraction. It's not the like the marketing methods and things like that, which I think is helpful and practical. Like, I don't know, like just for churchgoers, like you want to be a part of, like you should be kind of desiring to be in the presence of God and experience the power of God on Sundays. Yeah. I think would be just helpful perspective, you know, like that's why we're drawn together, like to see God move and to experience His presence and to worship together and encourage each other. And, you know, we're all like experiencing this very real God that can change real lives.
Yeah. And I think, I love that you say that, because I think there can be a sense in church sometimes where we're saying, what are we, getting people to Jesus with. I think of, you know, Paul saying like, I didn't come to you with like powerful words or persuasive speech, but with like a powerful demonstration of the Spirit, you know? Yeah. And I think that's interesting. Paul wants to lead and say, hey, I want you to have an encounter with the Spirit. I want this to be what is transformative to you, not necessarily that I make some cunning argument. Again, Paul is happy to make arguments and he's doing it. There's a place for that. But But it is, just a great challenge to say, how can we say we're not just seeking information or trying to learn more Duma, but like, no, we're looking to have God show up in this space and do a work.
Yeah. And I know like that's our goal each Sunday is to create an environment and atmosphere in which God can move and change people's lives. And I mean, even this Sunday, like, you know, like it's kind of a message that I was a little nervous about, you know, like just thinking like, how's this going to be received?
Right.
But, you know, like you get like a message later and it's like, hey, you know, like that, like I've been so like beat down from those verses you shared being abused in my life. And it was just such like a kind of a healing moment for me Sunday that I haven't experienced in a long time. But that's the power of God. Like that's the Spirit of God at work and like changing real lives. And that's what it's about. And I would just encourage like, if you're a Christian, like, and if you're gathering with God's people, like that should be your expectation. Like that God is moving. And I think more Christians show up with an expectation, like you're expecting God to move. You're expecting the Spirit to transform you. I think the better. I think if we just show up kind of with just this attitude of like, here I am at church again, you know, like each and every week showing up with an expectation, I think could just be crucial. And I think that's kind of what he argues for is like, hey, like we got to get back to this fresh wind, this fresh fire. Like we got to get back to, you know, God moving amongst his people.
Yeah, he has and I'm not going to do this entire justice. I remember he had a quote though where he's like, you'll know how popular your preacher is by like how many people there are Sunday morning, and you'll know how popular your church is by, I can't remember what his example was, but he said, you know how popular Jesus is at your church by how many people attend the prayer service. And I thought that was an interesting idea too, to say like, hey, you know, what are we showing up for? What are we seeking? What are we trying to do in this space? And yeah, I feel like the big thing that I grasped as I read through this book too was a call for God's people to be a people that seek God, that pray, that search, to say, where are you at? What do you want to do? Where are you guiding? Where are you directing? And I think sometimes the church has kind of lost what makes it special. Like we're saying, hey, we think that there's a God that is set this up and is working and is moving. And sometimes I think we can kind of cut out the spiritual and just be like, we're just trying to make like good sound business decisions or to you know, do whatever. Like, and I think this book challenges that and says, don't worry about that. Pray, seek God. Where's he at? What's moving? Where is he going to show up? And to be attentive to that. And I think after this, I had a fervor. I'm the sort of person that wants to, let me learn some more stuff. Let me get some facts. Let me try to understand it. And I left this saying like, no, let me just put that aside and let me pray. Let me seek, you know, which was just so good for me, I think, where I was at.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I know, like, I go through seasons, you know, like I remember, you know, first reading this, having the same thing. It's kind of when we were first starting our youth group, and you know, I'd go to the high school and just start praying for kids, and you know, like my faith journey has gone in seasons like that. But yeah, I mean, even just talking about it now, it's like this kind of just re-emphasis and reminder on the importance of prayer. It's something I've always struggled with, you know, but I think we all do. But it's you know, it's a great book, and I think it will challenge you, and it's so cool to see just real life examples of the Spirit of God moving and transforming lives. And I know that's something that we can even do a better job of here at Rhythm, is just sharing those stories. You know, because I think people want to hear them, and I think that's what's really powerful, you know. And you know, we can always do a better job sharing people's stories. But
that's so true.
Yeah, it's so good.
I'd love to know, just kind of as we're getting close to wrapping up here, when you're looking at this book, what do you think? I just lost my train of thought completely, actually.
What do I think about? I'm just
I know. I got to think. I don't know.
No, sure. It's all good. Yeah, maybe as we wrap up, we can just talk about like Jim Cymbala as a pastor, kind of maybe where he lines up. Do we know?
Yeah, Jim Cymbala, this is a cool thing. He's a guy that exists in kind of a space that's maybe not necessarily exactly what Rhythm is. You know, he's going to be a bit more. Like, I don't want to use fundamentalist as like a bad term, but he's going to be a bit more kind of your typical, more conservative evangelical, which is fine. But what I love is that even leaning in and saying, hey, there are some things where like we might totally not line up theologically, there's still like a lot of great things to be gleaned. So I think it's a good example too of like, hey, we don't have to, again, what this podcast is about, we don't have to agree with everything to realize and say like, hey, there might be something of value here for myself or the church or our people, something like that. Super good.
Sure. And I thought it would be helpful if you didn't have like the book on hand. Obviously, probably many of you don't. But if I just read the back cover here, I just think it'd be good for you to kind of hear just in general like what their summary of what the book is, and then if you're listening, you can kind of make a decision whether you want to pick it up or not. I know you can find it really anywhere books are sold. So
Yeah.
let me just read this quick, and then we'll wrap up. All right, the times are urgent. God is on the move. Now is the moment to ask God to ignite his fire in your soul. Pastor Jim Cymbala believes that Jesus wants to renew his people, to call us back from spiritual dead ends, apathy, and lukewarm religion. Cymbala knows the difference firsthand. 25 years ago, his own church, the Brooklyn Tabernacle, was a struggling congregation of 20. Then they began to pray. God began to move. Street-hardened lives by the hundreds were changed by the love of Christ. And today they're 8,000 strong. The story of what happened to this broken-down church in one of America's meanest neighborhoods points to the way that to new spiritual vitality in the church and in your own life. Fresh Wind, Fresh Fire shows what the Holy Spirit can do when believers get serious about prayer and the gospel. As this compelling book reveals, God moves in life-changing ways when we set aside our own agendas, take him at his word, and listen to his voice. So good.
So good.
And this was written...
It's not new.
Yeah, let me see.
I want to say,
in the 90s? Whoever gave me this one, it had the date of 2004. So
but I want to say on that copyright page, it's probably like in the 90s.
Why I can't find it on here.
Written in 97.
You think it's that old?
Yep, I'm positive. I just got word from our producer.
97?
97 years old. Yeah.
I just see it here.
1997.
1997.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
Man,
it's older, but
yeah.
it holds up. It holds a test of time. And you'll see as you read through it, it's dated in some ways, and it
24
shows
years
it a little
old,
bit. But what it's trying to get across is still great.
So good.
And I remember what I was going to say, which is
okay.
this. I thought this was a great way to end, too, which is to bring in and say, one of the things that's most attracts me about this book is, again, like you said, bringing up these kind of real-life examples of here's where God showed up. I thought it'd be cool. Do we have any examples in our life, one or two, that you think, here's some fresh wind, fresh fire, here's an example of I prayed, God moved. I thought that'd be a cool place to end. I think we share one of them.
I know, that's what I was going to share.
Yeah, go for that.
Yeah, so there was a season in which like, you and I were, we were, hitting the prayer train hard. And
yes, we were.
Really just kind of asking for God to move and show up. And really some dear friends of ours who were having some marriage problems and were asking us to pray. And so we came up here, like, gosh, was it midnight?
Yeah, it was just late.
Yeah, it was late one night. We came up to the church and just turned on some music. We started praying and praying specifically for them by name. And maybe a couple days later. But I heard that one of the individuals that we were praying for, like, woke up in the middle of the night and was just, like, in tears and just had this, like, really profound God moment, like, as we were praying. It was super cool.
Yeah, and he goes and says, "Is that normal?"
Yeah, I was like, which is just super cool, like, and again, like, that's just an amazing moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what comes to my mind, I have a couple. Again, they're few and far between. We'd love every day to wake up and like pray something and be like, oh my gosh, the most wild thing just happened. But it doesn't tend to be that way. But there was one time I was driving out to meet a friend and just kind of praying a little bit on the drive. But I remember having the profound sense. It wasn't like auditory. Couldn't put into words, but I had this deep sense of like, I need to tell Adam, my friend, about Jesus. I don't know. I was like, boom, I had this conviction. And it was weird because I didn't know Adam that well. He's kind of the friend of my friend. I was like, this just feels kind of sketch. And so I try to just like brush it off. But it kind of stuck and was nagging. And I get there and we're hanging out for a while. And I can remember even thinking like, how do I do this? There's no good way to work this into a conversation. And out of the blue, just totally unprovoked, complete topic change. Adam turns to me and goes, "Curtis, what do you think happens when we die?" And I looked at him, and it was just like on a tee. And it was a perfect opportunity to talk about Jesus and life and all those things. And I mean, 30 seconds of that conversation, just tears streaming. Just really, really it resonated with him. And we had really cool conversation. But it was one of those moments where I just felt that, and then I don't know. Again, it could be coincidence. Who knows? Sure. But one of those moments where it was like, that was quite the coincidence.
Yeah, that's good. I love it.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Super good.
Well, I know for sure, like, next time we do this, again, we're trying to maybe do, like, each month. So we'll give you time to maybe pick up the book and read the book before we jump into the next one. But, yeah, pick this up. Jim Cymbala, Fresh Wind, Fresh Fire. So good. And I think, we've talked about maybe even next month, the book will be a lot different. So they're not going to all be in the same vein.
Yeah.
I think the next one will be kind of on Bible reading, something like that. So, yeah, hopefully you enjoy this series. I know it'll be a lot of fun. Again, pick up the book, and if you have any questions or want further dialogue, we'd love to chat with you. Thanks for joining us here on The Current. We'll see you next Friday. Grace and peace.